All right, welcome everybody to this episode of Becoming Influential, the chat show for modern marketers. I've got some great hosts and talent to share all of this information with you guys tonight. We're going to be talking all things edification and recognition, which are just central pillars to our culture here in doTERRA. So I've got Alice Nichols is joining us to co-host tonight. One of my favorite minds in doTERRA. When she speaks, I listen. I always love to hear what she's got to say. So a great person for you guys to be listening to and learning from. People who I wanted to talk about edification and recognition, people who made Vanessa and I feel special when we very first started on this journey, Edification Santoshi. I remember years ago, we went to our first event. They invited us along to leadership in the States, and we went there, and they kind of ferried us around and made us feel like we belonged, and they made extra effort to take us up and introduce us to the owners of doTERRA, and those moments are forever, kind of etched in our memories, and we remember them so fondly, and we have nothing but huge respect for Edification Santoshi and everything they've done for us and for the wider field around doTERRA, Australia and New Zealand. Our guests tonight, we've got Kerry O'Neill somewhere on here. Kerry did a great chat at leadership talking about culture, and I feel like this edification and recognition piece are the cornerstones or foundations of the great culture that we have in doTERRA. So Kerry's going to kind of offer some thoughts up there. Chantel Hutton is joining us. She shared something beautiful, great experience she had at convention leadership, with running into Emily Wright in the street again, which is always a good thing to do when you get a chance to do that. And also Libby Wallmeyer. So let's kick off and get into it. The concept of edification and recognition has been something that has just been, from the moment I came into doTERRA, my feeling on it is that the owners like Dave Steeling and people like that, wherever they went, they made you feel special. They made you feel like you mattered. They remembered your name. They remembered where you were from. They made huge effort to try and remember your children's names or anything they could, just to make you feel like you mattered to them, no matter whether you joined last week or you'd been here for forever, since the day dot. And whether you were a double presidential unicorn or you made elite last month, they made you feel like elite was presidential diamond. That's how I felt when I joined, when we came to doTERRA. And they made a real point of making sure that at every opportunity, that's what we should be doing, is taking that chance to build people up, not take them down. So whether you're teaching a class and you have someone sharing on one oil, to make that person feel special for doing that, and how amazing what they had to say was, and how important it was that they had something to share, is so critical to what we do here in doTERRA and the community that we've created, that we here on this call and the wider community that will listen back later on all love so much. So Al, your thoughts on this subject matter?
Yeah,
I know you do this really, really well, and your team, who, as I've been reaching out to, by the way, have been giving Al lots of love for how she's been recognizing her team in recent times. So
it's interesting because I am someone who I'm well aware that there's been gaps in it. So first of all, I am a firm believer in, and not even a believer, statistically, like I love data. Data tells us that women and men, but I will say particularly women, is what it shows, and we are a very woman-heavy business, that we want to be seen, like in our lives, not just in our businesses, in our relationships, in our communication with people. Like we have a deep desire to be seen as part of this connection experience that we have with other humans. And we have a much looser connection with things when we don't feel like we're seen, because we don't feel like we're valued. People don't recognize us. And so it's really interesting because I have been here nearly 7 years, and I have valued, seen, or I have shown my recognition of people in different ways throughout that. And I've been recognized in different ways throughout that. And it hasn't always been, something that I'm super proud of. And so maybe we can walk through different stages of that throughout this conversation. But from my first experience with doTERRA, I had this recognition and this beautiful, warm feeling of being seen by not only my enroller, but by doTERRA themselves. So, you know, I enrolled through someone I know and I love and I trust. And, you know, when I was hitting my first ranks, they were valuing that and showing that publicly on Facebook or on Instagram and in my personal inbox, you know, via text message and email and whatever the case may have been at the time. And that was incredible. I will never forget that feeling. In fact, you know, Facebook has one of those, it's a wonderful thing that we now get to see memories pop up because, you know, I saw Tara Bliss, who's my enroller. I saw her celebration of me for hitting Premier come up in my reminders or memories on Facebook. And it's so wild to take myself back to that time and feel that feeling again, which is what it genuinely does. You can feel that fizziness again. And I remember at the time just being, gosh, so incredibly inspired and hooked on this experience that I was having with doTERRA within the business and with the product itself. And I'll never forget. I actually, you know what? I just lied. I did obviously forget how that felt because there's been times where I haven't duplicated that within my own downline over the last maybe 2 years because everything was shifting so great. And I allowed perhaps personal feelings of this doesn't feel awesome right now to cloud the fact that it wasn't just about me and it was about other people who were having those first experiences as well. And so it's been one of those rememberings for me, like putting things back together to remember that this isn't about me and this edification and this value that we have in wanting to be seen and heard and recognized for what maybe feels like it was a long time ago for me, but is brand new and incredible for them. Like that's what I'm bringing back into or doubling down on with our team at the moment. And that's just so important because we think it's not a huge deal perhaps to us at times, but you know, the response that you get back from people who you are making a point of spending your time to say thank you to or congratulations or letting them know how proud you are is the response from them is just so fantastic. And we've got to remember what that feels like.
I'm glad you brought that up, Al, about I think as we move through, you know, our time and career with doTERRA, sometimes it's easy to sort of see these stepping stones at the beginning as, I don't know, we don't think that they're less than, but that they maybe they seem not as significant or something when we've got so much else going on because we've got a bigger, broader team now and we're busier or whatever it is. And we cannot possibly calculate the value of making someone feel amazing because they got to manager or because they enrolled their very first person or because they helped their sister get onto the loyalty reward program yesterday. Because always I'm reminded, and I've had it twice in the last month, once at leadership with Tracy McMahon, and she made me feel edified. She made me feel seen actually in a way that I hadn't felt for quite some time, because I think when you're the leader, sometimes you're not in the space of being recognized that way, maybe in the same as often as you perhaps were. And then just again this week, Zainab did that for me. She made me feel seen in a way that I hadn't felt seen and valued in a while. And I just think that we cannot ever underestimate the value of putting effort and time into recognizing the little things that people do well and how that feels. So in that note, let's hear from Chantel. Chantel, I'm going to make sure that you can unmute yourself. Let's see if you can do that. Love to hear from you about your experience that you had at leadership. You shared it kind of publicly there, but I just felt that was such an amazing kind of demonstration of what I talked about at the top of this call, where the owners of this company still see us all and see us all as important and valuable. So I'll leave
one of my favorite stories ever.
So fun, so good.
Oh, guys, well, I've thought more about it since that, so that's nice as well. So I get to share it for a second time. So thank you. So just if you guys didn't hear the story or weren't on socials, but I was having lunch with the girls, and I was, kind of nervously going like, should I get a photo with Emily Wright? Like, should I interrupt her lunch in order to go and ask, like, to get a photo? And then I was kind of like, oh, I don't want to interrupt her while she's, the line was huge. So she was waiting to get her lunch. And so I was like, you know what, if the opportunity comes and it feels good, I'll do it. And then we were having lunch, and she was on her way out of the cafe, and I actually don't really know. It was a bit of a blur. I don't actually know who got her attention or how we got her attention, but the moment came where it allowed for her to like give me a hug. And I in the time I was like, I don't even know if she knows, who I am. I assumed she did not know who I was, actually, I would say. And so when she gave me a hug, and she kind of like, she stepped back and she just like took a moment where she paused and she was looking into my eyes. And in that moment, I don't remember because it was such a little moment. And she was like, she kind of goes, Chantel. And then she said something like, women's health practitioner, fertility. And she like pulled these little things that I was like, how the hell did she know that? And I think in the moment, I actually don't even know what I responded. But when she walked away, I looked at Alice and I was like, did you tell her? Like, how did she know? How did she know that? And look, I still don't know how she knows, but it could have been the power of social media and just me, building relationships, supporting her in her travels to Australia, which kind of goes to some of the points of how we create relationships and some of the power behind, I guess, social media in that context. But there's lots of learning lessons, like me as the person on the receiving end. Obviously, I felt, and look, at that time, leadership was a really significant point for me in my business. So being seen and feeling recognized was actually like something that was really, really big for me, because I guess I had felt like some disconnect between myself and my business. So having that, recognition of being seen and feeling valued and feeling, it was huge for me in terms of just like my commitment back, and not so much my commitment, but maybe just that belief back in myself and connection, feeling that connection back. From a business point of view. So I guess that goes to the point of like, you never know the time in that person's life when you do see them as well. And so what can seem super small, like even retelling that story, I'm like, who cares? But at the same time, it was, a significant thing for me at that time as well. And then I kind of look at that on the reverse side of like, I look at learning lessons from that opportunity with Emily of like, well, how did she know to remember 3 significant points about me just from a message, maybe via Instagram? So that kind of also allowed me to kind of just reflect on like ways that you interact with people on a daily basis. And it can be like the cab driver and actually just asking a few questions, or like taking the time to know a little bit more about each person and how significant that is. And I think the theme of bringing more humanness back into everything we do is so important. And I like what you said, Paul, there about like even just little things at workshops, as I've started to get back into that, like really allowing each person to have like that special moment as much as you can. And from a leadership point of view, celebrating the small things. I messaged everyone at the last month, just like for the enrolling, like I was like, you know what, let's celebrate enrolling people at this point in time. It's so many opportunities to allow someone to feel seen.
I love that, Chantel. I think it's so you hit on a couple of points there that I think are so critical. One is that when we're made to feel that way as leaders, it's a great lesson for us in how is it that I can then make others feel that way. I've been seen, I've been shown, I've been led, how can I do that? But the other thing is that you mentioned, my story, it's not much of a story, how much does it really matter? The thing is that it matters to you. And it affected you deeply. That you were remembered and recognized, and that's what matters. It doesn't matter that story might not mean much to, like, the rest of the audience here go, okay, well, that's great, good, Chantel, you got a hug from Emily, awesome, yeah, good for you. But really what matters is that you're changed from that. and you go out then and you want to create that change. You want to go out there, and I'm not to downplay the story at all, because when you're made to feel special by people like Emily Wright, it's definitely a special moment. But ultimately, really, what happens is that you were affected deeply by that, deeply enough that you wanted to share it publicly, and then deeply enough that we've been affected enough that we've got to tell this story more. I mean, the conversation we had was afterwards was why this topic tonight, right, Al?
Yeah, I mean, I was there at the time. I can say I was there when Emily said to Chantal, fertility, hormones, right? And I'll tell you, there's a ripple effect to it that we can emulate, that we can absolutely duplicate, whether we're the founding executive of this company or not, right? Witnessing that exchange, there's 11 million customers in doTERRA. And I don't, there's only, even if you say there's only 10% who are wellness advocates who are earning commission through this business, like that is an extraordinary amount of people for Emily as founding executive, who probably had jet lag. Like that is a mean feat to jump on a stage directly after getting off a flight from the US. That trip to here, like that's a horrendous timeline to cross. And so she recognized Chantal, and she knew exactly who she was. And in that moment, like for me, and I've known Emily, not close, obviously, but for a few years, that's a display of the heart of this company. That's who our company is. Like there's a founding executive of doTERRA who knows the name and the industry, like not just health and wellness, but the very specific industry of one of her leaders within one region of many, many regions in the world. And that's extraordinary. And from everything I know about doTERRA, and one of the reasons I am eternally grateful for being at this particular company, that's who we are. And we get the chance to witness that. And we then get the chance to duplicate that out in our own experiences. And for us, that could be that we use somebody's name in a class when we're referring to a particular type of support that an essential oil or a product can give, like when you're making sure you're confirming people's names at the start of a class and you're asking if there's anything in particular that they are struggling with, so that you can speak to that as you're walking through the class virtually or in a face-to-face environment. If you can use that person's name in there, we all get this opportunity to duplicate this experience that Chantal had with the founding executive of our company. And we get to be, I suppose, the veins of this heart and soul of the company. And that's really, really important. And there's no part of me that would ever want to be like, oh, that wasn't a big deal. Like it was such a massive moment. I think I was even in shock. And it was just, I think because I know the size of the company, we know how big it is. And man, I'm not great with names. And so to witness that happen was just extraordinary. And yet Emily and doTERRA are extraordinary. And it's just that beautiful arm that keeps reaching out from who this company is. And it's phenomenal. Amazing edification.
Yeah, they live by their words. Yeah. Oh, good, Chantal, sorry.
No, I was thinking how like you think it's significant. Like that's just like even hearing you retell the story, like it sounds insignificant. Like it may sound insignificant, but at the time it's so significant to that person. And that's probably what we have to always remember of like you using their name is, something that may seem insignificant, but in fact, it's actually a recognition point and it's a point of contact and that really you seeing them, and that's huge. Yeah. And I think that is the heart of this company and probably why it does attract people who have felt that, and that creates so much more deeper commitment as well. I find that it's I don't want to say your buy-in, but your like dedication and commitment when you're recognized in any company is going to be tenfold. Whereas if you feel like another number, then you work to the capacity that allows. Whereas when you're actually recognized, you commit on a deeper level.
It's a great point. Really great point. I think that I'm so grateful that for Vanessa and I, we landed in doTERRA when we know people that are in lots of different companies that we could have been anywhere. And one of the things that makes me feel safe about being with doTERRA and staying with doTERRA for the long term is that constantly I'm reminded and shown that doTERRA the owners, the company, do what they say they will do, and they mean what they say when they say something. As an example, many of you would have heard them say things like, although we're growing and we're becoming very large, and this happened when they got to the $1 billion turnover point, they said, we want to retain the heart of a small company. We want to retain that feeling of a small company. And no more could that be in evidence than when one of the owners, who recently has been promoted to president of the company, is busier now than she's probably ever been, remembers someone that she hasn't seen for years and remembers what she's passionate about and what she does on the ground in a country far from home. So that's just, brilliant, leadership and edification recognition. Switching gears a little bit, Santoshi and Adish, you guys are legends at this. You guys have been doing it for probably longer than all of us. But Santoshi, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this concept of recognition and edification, how important it's been for you and the growth of your business and the sustainability of your business over the long term. And Santoshi, I'd also like you to introduce and chat a little bit to our next guest, Libby, seeing as she was your idea to bring her on tonight.
Okay, so I actually had an experience today, which was really interesting. And it really just goes down this whole path of edification and recognition. And it's somewhere like, I was in the airport and I was catching a plane back to Byron, or to Ballina. And it was pandemonium, as we've all heard, but I was on Virgin. So I thought, cool, it's going to be great. It won't be too bad, but it was crazy in Virgin. And I finally got through and I got to security, and the stress levels are rising and rising, as we all know, as we try and get through. And then there's one guy that was actually checking all the bags. He just stopped. I had a mask on and he said to me, "You look beautiful today." And I was just like, I pulled my mask down and said, "I beg your pardon?" So we stopped the whole line. And he says, "You look beautiful today." And I said, "Wow, thank you. That's amazing. That's an act of kindness." And I thought to myself, I hope he's doing this to a lot of other people, because in that moment, like Alice had shared, it brought me in the moment. The stress level dropped. My, what's it called? My dopamine,
oxytocin.
My oxytocin felt really, oh yeah, wow, I must be the color I'm wearing. It's like, wow, I don't get that often. It's like Adish and I are forever giving, because we're sort of like these, I love to, recognize and edify people. I mean, I could probably look at every one of you and I've recognized or edified. And so today it was like Paul said, it was reversed. But the gift that I feel doTERRA gives us is, the more we edify and the more we recognize, it becomes like it's so natural that we do it. And then when someone actually does it, like today to me, I can receive it so easily. And I just felt like, wow, that's just another dance within doTERRA, and how doTERRA, in a way, prepares us to even be, because in the early days, there was no recognition or edification. We didn't know what people were talking about in the States when they'd go, "Oh, wow, you guys are doing so good." And we're like, "Are you true?" You know how Australians are. "What are you doing here? You're pulling our legs here?" I don't know if I can trust that. We're not used to it as Australians. It was like, oh my God, these guys are a bit strange. So it was like, we had to learn how to edify and recognize. And it's taken 12 years where now it's become very natural. And I'm sure Leonie, any of the oldies in doTERRA could say, yes, we've learned how to edify and recognize, and it's become a real joy.
Yeah. So if I can quickly share a little bit, what the secret is and why we love it? Because our oxytocin level, when we are sharing and it's well received, goes up as well. It feels so good and you want to do more. And so it's a merry-go-round of good feelings and inspiring each other. And I think this is so needed in today's crazy, insecure times, where it's so easy to fall into this negative self-talk by giving someone positive feedback or appreciating them. We're kind of like helping them to align again what's good about them, right? And we make this human connection, and we all need it. And just one little thing, when people watch it, let's say Alice watched how Emily recognized Chantel, the watchers also benefit, and everybody who was involved and even talking about this, everybody feels like you can see the faces. So this is such a beautiful thing to do, and this is honestly why I love doTERRA.
Yeah, and then I wanted Libby to come on tonight to share her incredible story, because this was just a joy. And I know that Paul and Vanessa, our whole organization, we had so much fun watching Libby just melt. And Libby, take it away and share the whole joy that you received from all of us.
Thank you so much for asking me to come on. It's such a pleasure to share. I have shared actual video of this on my Facebook, and I am literally crying like a baby. So for those people who weren't there, I was at the start of this. Well, actually, I'll go back a step. So the last 2 years have been really difficult, as they have for many people. So much so for me, I'm a single mom. I have a lot of animals that I support, as well as my 24-year-old daughter. And life just got really, really difficult. And I literally tried at one stage to leave doTERRA, and Adam Barrelay would not let me, thank God. Because I was just so down in the dumps and just had lost kind of just that joy for living, really, to be honest. And then, you know, something kind of clicked in, and I just got to that stage at about March this year that I had really made a decision to go, no, actually, this is not, I'm not enjoying how I'm feeling. I want to get back into doTERRA, because doTERRA has been the place where I have felt loved and accepted for me being me. And it's the only place, other than my daughter and my mum, but they have to love me, so, you know, they don't count, where people actually really like me, and I feel that. So I jumped back into working my butt off, but things have been really, really difficult. I've been struggling financially in a lot of different ways. So fast forward to sort of June, July, I've been smashing it out of the ballpark, really focusing on the Grow program, and that's been amazing, and just rebuilding my community and my love for the oils and what I do. And I was lucky enough for actually to be gifted the opportunity by Paul and Vanessa to go up to the Gold Coast and to stay at this beautiful McMansion for Zip. And I ended up in a dinner. I'm going to get emotional. I ended up in a dinner with these incredible human beings, not just my upline, but incredible leaders from our organization. Just thinking it was going to be this incredible dinner, and I was actually heading home at 9 o'clock on a flight, but I had to go to the dinner because Emily Wright was going to be there. And anyway, I was in a hurry to sort of get this taxi to the airport, and next minute Adam comes out with this cake and sings happy birthday, because it happened to be my 50th birthday. And the surprise didn't end there. Next minute, he's saying that, giving me recognition about how hard I'd been doing things for a long period of time, and how I'd literally reinvented myself and come back to life and step back into doTERRA in a really big way. But not only Adam, this is the thing that blew me away the most, not only Adam, but Santoshi and Adish, Paul and Vanessa, Tanya Maidman, who I've never even met, Michelina Knight, all of my upline had actually recognized my effort, my contribution, my passion, my will to keep going, even though things were rough, and actually paid for me to fly over to the States and attend the doTERRA Heal convention, which is coming up next week, and my accommodation. And I'm like, I cannot tell you, I'm still pinching myself that it's real or not real, because I'd been in a group chat with all of the leaders that were going along, and it got to the point where I was so disheartened that I couldn't afford to go, that I said in the chat, look guys, this is really hard, I'm going to have to jump out. And then to be able to be put back in, and say that I'm going because of that recognition from these beautiful people. So I can't tell you what it's done for me on a personal level. It's not just about the trip. It's just about the love in the community and the acceptance, and the recognition from doTERRA and the people within it, not just because they can, but because they care, because they want to. And I think that's the biggest thing that people can take away, is give recognition to people because you can and because you care, and you want to make a difference in their lives and you want to impact them. And by doing that, I mean, I've gone above and beyond in the last couple of months since this gift, and I can see me growing and growing and growing, and maybe even getting to platinum by the end of the year. Who knows, you know, what else is possible? The world's my oyster. So much gratitude to everyone in the community of doTERRA, not just the people who've contributed to me, but the people at leadership who got up on stage, the people that I connected with who have nothing to do with me or my team or even Adam's team. And just like, far out, how good is it? Take a breath.
Libby, nailed it. Al, you jump in there, but I mean, look, we love you, you know, and recognition comes in all forms, right? And I wanted to recognise, because Libby's part of our team and Ada Barrelet's team, but above us we've got amazing uplines like Tanya Maidmon and Edition Santoshi, and everyone chipped in to create something special for someone special who deserved it, because she's been working really, 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 really hard, and she's been creating incredible results. And I also want to touch on the point that it's not the cost of recognition, it's the fact that you make the effort, right, that matters the most. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's a text message, a quick phone call, a card in the mail, or you can do something grand, you know, once in a while for something that you know, maybe deserves that extra something special. But all of these levels of recognition are getting you all to feel the feels. And I saw some tears then while that was going on, so that's fun. Go, Elle.
Oh, when I was listening to Libby, I've never met you, Libby, and I haven't heard of your name before. I have now, and I've got some secret squirrels that have been telling me that you have had quite an extraordinary couple of months from an enrollment perspective as well. And that was, which is amazing. Are we able to share how many new customers Libby enrolled in the last couple of months? Do you know that number off the top of your head, Paul?
I want to say something like 21 in July and 17 in August or something like that. I got a list of them all. I'll get it up in a minute, but Libby, you know,
Yes.
Libby would know for sure.
I think, like, if we went June, July, August, it's
2
probably
months.
Closer to maybe 50, 60.
Yeah. It was ahead of leadership. It had been, I can tell you, ahead of leadership, it was 50 in the 3 months before leadership. So I know that much. So, and then she's kept that going through Grow, doing, you know, basically averaging kind of 15 a month.
It's amazing. And you know what? I always think of this phrase when I hear something like that, like you move, I move, you move, the universe moves, you move, and energy moves, right? And so I find that I'm not surprised that this happened. I'm not like, this is the first time I've heard this story, and there's no part of the story that surprises me in any way, because you instigated the return of this energy to you by what you put into it, right? And what I love is that hearing a story so big and extraordinary like this, and also for doTERRA, extraordinary, because this doesn't surprise me for doTERRA either. And for the people that work in doTERRA, I saw Jess sharing in the chat box about, and maybe a few people agreeing about how she's not met, you know, such an incredible supportive community of love and connection as what she has here. And I would wholeheartedly agree with that as being my experience as well. This type of experience we can duplicate into what can seemingly be incredibly small experiences. So for, like, if I think about how to extrapolate this feeling on a minute level across many people in the team, you know, Chantal, I think, mentioned celebrating people for enrolling, you know, like everything's costing more money these days, no doubt about it. Putting a gift in the post can cost you $12 to send it to the next city, but you can pop still a card in the mail with 3 sentences that you hand write to someone who's enrolled someone, or send a text message, you know, for either 40 cents or $2 if it's a card. And when that lands on that person's doorstep or in their inbox, that really matters. Like, looking at these really large experiences, we can take that down to this granular level. You can do it for free in your Facebook group by you know, opening it up to your team at the beginning of each month. Tell me about somebody you saw do something extraordinary last month. You know, get them to bring this edification to the team and create an energy and an environment where this is common practice. There was a huge swell of energy around this some years ago, and I feel like we have to come home to this again. If it hasn't been happening in Facebook groups and, you know, on doorsteps when the postman arrives, etc. Like, we can do it for free and low cost, and the value that that brings to someone's life is so massive. You know, for us, it's things like re-enrolling, you know, like we sent someone off a card, and I think an oil actually as well, a fancy oil that I had in stock, just for enrolling someone for the first time in 6 months. Like, welcome back to this experience again, in doing this again. You know, we can do this, and we can just make sure that we're tracking, you know, in our own back offices. But it might be somebody who reached out to somebody for the first time, or did enroll their first person, or even, you know, did their first Instagram story. These things that we find so commonplace for many of us these days can be so petrifying for somebody who's diving into this for the first time, that hearing you say, "This is awesome, congratulations," just matters so much to them. And so, Libby, your story is just absolutely amazing, and I'm not surprised, and you're going to have the best time, and I'm fully jealous of you going to be there in person. How do we take the Libby energy like into our teams at a, you know, in granular level, and help women feel like this, and men, on a day-to-day basis? That's what we want to focus on in our teams.
Well, I've got the answer for you, because I've been thinking about this, and post-leadership I did something, and I ran a little pilot, and I want to ask you all to participate in the next phase of this pilot in your own lives and your own teams moving forward. So, and it was really off the back of actually Kerry O'Neill, and we're going to hear from Kerry in a moment. But Kerry, her presentation about the culture of doTERRA, and then also Sarah Gordon, who shared about when she didn't have money, when she wasn't, you know, a well-off wellness advocate at Blue Diamond level, she had time. When she was starting out, she gave her people time. She gave them attention, right? So she found a way to give. So I was thinking about that at leadership. And while I was sitting there actually live at the thing, I wrote notes in my phone of what I don't write copious notes, but I take away the few moments where I'm like, oh, I'm going to go do something with that. The 1 or 2 things that I try and get out of a whole leadership. And one that I got away with, took away from that, was to deepen this concept of recognition, and how do we get that to start to be propagated again in our communities. So I test drove this for the last month, or the month straight after leadership, and the ripple effect of it in our team has been amazing. And what I challenged myself was, every single day for 30 days, I'm going to make sure that I make an effort to recognize somebody for something. I'm going to make someone feel special every day for something in my team. Now, my challenge to you all, so this is the pebble in the pond moment where the ripples start to reach further out, is, and you can put in the chat if you're in, actually get your fingers typing and say, yes, do something to prove you're in. If you're in and you want to do this, for the next 30 days, can you find a way to recognize someone in your doTERRA community? Can you recognize a customer because they ordered? Can you recognize someone for trying something new? Like, my new favorite thing is that. Like, never been a protein drinker. I love this stuff. Anyway, but can you recognize someone for something? Can you recognize someone for enrolling their first person, or their 10th person, or the fact that they haven't enrolled someone in 2 years, but they did last month? We actually off one of the people that I messaged was a diamond in our team who hasn't enrolled or been present in the business for the last 3 years. And within a week of a message, they enrolled somebody. Now, is it a direct effect from the message? I don't know. But could it possibly have contributed? I think absolutely. right? So I'm not taking credit that I was the reason she enrolled someone, but I certainly think the mere fact that we're making the effort to recognize them and say, hey, I see you. Hey, I'm here and I miss you and I wish you had been here with me. Those things are all the difference that we can possibly be making in the world. So that's my question to you all. Are you in? And if you're in, get on the chat and say, yes, I'm in, and let's do it. Let's, for 30 days, every single day, find a small way somehow, because all of us have a phone contract at least. So we can all send a text message a day. That's free. You're paying for your phone contract anyway. So the message is free. It's the cost is your effort, right? But that's the investment. The return is so high in compound result and outcome, you couldn't possibly calculate it. And if you could get a return like that on money, you'd be investing there and there only, right? So making people feel special. So let's do that. Kerry, I wanted you to kind of finish off this call before we go off record and get to some Q&A. But Kerry's the culture queen. She's like the founding mother of this concept. So wanted her to be on tonight to share what her thoughts are around this and why edification and recognition matters so much. So Kerry, I'll leave it to you to finish this out.
You're a cat, Paul. There's no mother or queen of culture except for doTERRA. I think if we are tapping into what the owners are doing, then we're there. This has been so good to listen to people tonight. There's a thing in the chat that's just come up going, go sis, and that's Leonie. And I don't know if you can see Leonie and I both on the camera. I've got my hair up, but people used to confuse us all the time. And yeah, we are not sisters, but we recognized each other as being kindred spirits in about 2012. And that's what you find in this family that we're in, is that we're both great dancers. You are funny, Noel. You find people who you see yourself through in a different way as well. And talking about like this, having presented about culture at leadership was the most amazing fucking honor. Because for 12 years, there has been a passion that cannot be contained. And for a long time, it was squashed, I guess. And I can say that in terms of recognition, Santoshi has been one of the most important people in my continuation of that passion, because every time she had a chance, it would be like, "Oh, just find." Kerry's very passionate. Just what can she say? Like, some people are just going, "Shut the fuck up!" Like you just say too much. You say it too loud. You say it too emotionally. Whereas other people are going, "No, that's some passion. Bring it out there." And it's that thing that if we can recognize that secret source that each person has, and be seen differently. So it's that, just one episode, one thing of actually having the chance to share that story at leadership seems to have moved maybe some people's impression of me as a loud whinger to a passionate portrayer. Does that make sense? And it's that if we can see that in people in our own sphere, Santoshi, I love you. If we can see people in our own sphere for what their secret source is, and it doesn't just mean recognizing a rank. And to be honest, I have been, without a shadow of a doubt, shit at that for the entire 12 years. I think in terms of public recognition, having something in place to do that, I learnt more about recognition from Jodie than I ever had in Grange, like that I would have started. But what am I talking about? I don't even know. It's that it's the idea that what you feel for others, and if you can just let them know. Having people, like Paul said, like Santoshi said, you know, if you have people who have helped you, just say thank you. Just that recognition of people who have done something to you, recognizing freaking doTERRA for what they have done for us is so important for us when we're presenting the company publicly, when we're sharing. They deserve to be recognized for everything that they've done, not just for us personally, but in terms of changing network marketing. This is a huge change. I remember Jodie Naylor, who's now Presidential Diamond. I remember she was, you know, stuck, that horrible word, on at Premier, and to get to the next rank was this really important thing for a whole range of reasons. And I can't even remember what rank I was at the time. I might have been silver, I might have been gold, but at the end of the month, I knew how much that meant, and I was following the pictures, the color of the circles changing on that back office. And when I saw that color change, I screamed. And my son came in and went, "What's the matter?" I went, "Daddy's got silver, yes!" And I was on the phone to her. And he just looked at me and goes, "Man, are you going to be as excited when you change color?" And it's like, yeah, probably not. Because in this business, we get so much more joy out of seeing other people progress, that actually being able to put that out publicly, to actually share that with them, whether it be, as people have said, not just because you can. I love that statement, Libby, not just because you can, but because you care. I mean, that's my takeaway. That's just so brilliant. And, you know, how it's not about me, but it helps us, that oxytocin, the whole dopamine, everything, when someone overcomes something, if we can share that with them, that's so important. I don't know if that's anything like what you're expecting, Paul.
No, look, lovely, Kerry. Look, we love it when it's from the heart. That's what really, that's what we're all feeling. It's these episodes of Becoming Influential and designed to be about 35 minutes, and we're 20 minutes past that. And I don't think anyone wants to stop talking about this subject matter because of how it makes us all feel. We're enjoying the space, and the testament to that is that not one person has left the call, and we're past it. It's the time we normally run. But look, thanks so much to all the presenters that came on tonight, the hosts, Kerry, Libby, Chantel, Al, as always, and Adish and Santoshi for hosting. I think that we get the opportunity in this space to recognize up and down, right? It's not just in your downline, but there's lots of spaces and ways that we can recognize each other. So my encouragement for everybody is to take that challenge forward over the next 30 days. And who can we recognize? Who can we make to feel special? Who can we edify in every opportunity that we have? And there's lots of them. And it's amazing when you start looking how many opportunities there are for that.
Yeah. Can I just say as well before we close is that I think it's really important that whilst a lot of people won't continue working with doTERRA, that it's really beautiful to see them as the highest and in the highest regard that they can within doTERRA, that you see your consultants as Presidential Diamond and treat them as such, because it's those moments that you take with them when they are consultant and executive and elite that helps to drive them to that next level. Like, I would value recognition more as a consultant than as a Presidential Diamond. If we think about it that way, it's backcasting instead of it's forecasting, not instead of backcasting. It's treating and edifying. I mean, this starts at a customer level, right? It really does. Like, we could celebrate people for processing their first loyalty rewards program order. Like, that's a really big deal where they saw the value in something that is so incredibly powerful. I feel like the more minute we get with this, the more incredible opportunities are going to start to spark within our teams.
Love that. Thanks, Al. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this episode of Becoming Influential, the chat show for modern marketers. We will be back with you first Wednesday of every month. So what I'd love for you all to do also is share this link to register for these calls and the Zooms. Share it with your teams, and let's get this to be something that is a space that I think you'll all agree that this is a space that everyone could come into, and they would do well to be here once a month to connect together and hear from leaders across the whole gamut of ages and experiences and everything that we can all bring to this melting pot that is a great space that it is to be doTERRA. So thanks again for coming, and remember in the chat those events that are coming up your way. Just pop them there again so we can see you as we're coming around to share how to grow a doTERRA business well. And it's great for brand spanking new sharers to come along to as well. We'll see you next month, same time, same channel.